Today we're going to be making several things with dough. We're going to be making some simple gnocchis, not the ones that you know how to make a while ago, the ones I showed you, and then we're going to make the classic strips. So I'm starting now by kneading my dough, and all you do is you just flatten it, tone it, fold it, flatten it, tone it, fold it, wherever you start off, depends on the pattern. So just see what I'm doing? This is what you do to the Play-Doh. This is all you do. Very simple. A very simple technique, but you need to do it a while till you get a very flat dough. So you're going to need to do this for bread, pasta, and pizza. Now, when you work with dough, you want to be careful because some people are intimidated to work with dough. They say, oh, I don't want to work with dough, it's too sticky. Well, they need to get used to the feel of dough because dough is kind of versatile in a lot of things. So in order to bake, you have to get used to dough. Really, you have to get used to dough because you're going to need to get used to that. And believe me, my hands are sensitive to the floury texture, but if I don't touch my hands, then that's okay. And you know, 1 year ago, I mastered it. I worked dough in my hands, without gloves, with the flour. The trick is not to touch your hands, and I just felt so proud of myself. So now we're going to flatten the dough. And, you know, kneading the dough is a great mind exercise. It really relaxes the mind. So get it nice and flat. Get it nice and flat. So, this is all I want you to do. Just kind of flatten it. Flatten it very nice. Perfect. So, now, maybe you can do it without trying to look at dough. Maybe helpful here. Okay, so now get that nice and flat, and if it helps, just kind of smooth those edges out. Just do that. And if it's not working for you, just do that. So, okay. So now we're going to, let's do a little more. We want this to be a very even, spread out, long, thin dough, but we don't want it to be too thin. And I'm going to show you why in just a second after I finish flattening the dough here. So, the reason we don't want to make it too thin is because of the rolling. Now, when you roll, you don't want to go too far to the edge, because if you do that, guess what's going to happen? Your dough is not going to be even. So, take your roller and start way back here, press into the dough, and just kind of go, really roll it out, but don't go too far to that edge. Otherwise, you will not be good. So you want a nice, even dough when you roll it in your rolling pin. So it's kind of critical when you're making pie crusts, pizzas, and pastas. So, yeah. And Julia Child gave us a trick to double the amount of cake flour to make your crust more tender, and how to roll dough. So you want to be very careful when you roll it. Believe me, she's a master. And she has, sometimes I like to think of Julia Child as the accidental chef. Because sometimes she does things that are not right, like she didn't cook that apple pie right, and it was runny, and then she made another one. So when you go on TV, don't fret if things don't work out. Just go, okay, well, I can fix it. Just pretend it never happened. Just do it again. I actually heard a story that she actually dropped a chicken on the floor, and I was like, what? No chef would do that unless they won't blush. So get this dough nice and flat, and it looks good. Believe me, if I have a restaurant, I am not going to rush because it's too cold for me. I'm going to give my guests something to entertain themselves while I cook the food. Now, we've got this dough all rolled out. So now we're going to roll it up as if we were making a jelly roll. And then we're going to get the sides nice and tucked. Just do this very simply. Then, very simple, just cut pieces of dough. Just cut very simply, pieces of dough. And if they're too big, just cut them again. And if they're too small, re-roll the dough. Whoops. There. Let's just get that all done. So I think these gnocchis look very good indeed. Except that one's a little, I didn't even know, but that's okay. So this is our gnocchis. Now we're going to do one thing very quickly before we leave. So we're going to do very quick. This is very quick. We're going to make the sugar strips. So how we make the sugar strips is very simple. Flatten the dough nice and flat. I fold it over because it was too thin. So, let's see here. We are good. Let's flatten that out. Okay. Then all you do is you just do that. Now we roll. So again, we start there, push down, and do that. Then we do the same thing again. You know the drill. So let's just keep doing it until we have ourselves a nice even dough. And before you ask, again, you move it towards you, not further away from you. So yeah. So, as you can see, we have a very thin dough right here. So turn it, roll it out, turn it, and then roll it like that. I want to really press down and do not go too thin and too far to the edge. When you make pasta and you put it in this pasta machine, rolling the dough very thin is key. Because if you just put a clump of dough in there and you don't roll it thin enough, then guess what's going to happen? You're going to break your pasta machine. You're going to use something called stripping the gears on the pasta machine. Meaning you're breaking all the little buttons and things that a pasta machine has. You're breaking your pasta machine, basically. So, yeah. So, I think that this dough looks very nice. If you see a hole, that's no big deal. Just go over it, Patch. If you see a hole, don't fret about it. Just patch. We are done. So, now, very simple. All we're going to do is we're going to take our knife and we're going to cut strips of dough, and they're all going to be different sizes. And if they're too big, just cut them again and make them smaller. We'll just get rid of that here. Okay. Let's cut in half. Perfect. Then cut again. And then as you can see, we have perfect strips of dough. Yes, perfect. So hold your knife with that one. Whoops. Then do that. That's a little uneven, but that's okay. You want to cut that one in half. There and there. There. I think that one's good. Cut. Then cut in half. Then do that. Whoops. That one's okay. Then do the same thing again. You want very even strips of dough. And you want to really use your knife wisely. There. And then cut more strips of dough. Now when you're cutting, you want to not lay your fingers out. Because if you lay your fingers out, guess what's going to happen? You're going to cut your fingers. So you want to really bunch them up together and then roll them up. Because if you do that, you are not going to cut your fingers. Because your fingers are coming back together. They're tightening up. They're not laid out and relaxed. And they don't have a lot of space. Because if they're laid out and relaxed, well, then that's a bad thing because you're going to cut your fingers. So that's good. Now the thing, so we can either take some pieces of dough like this and put them together like this and then cut them up thinner. Al piacere. So, you can either do that, cut little strips of dough there, or you can take the strips of dough and do this. You can take a strip of dough and then watch me. Because all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fingers and then I'm going to just roll right across. You see how I do that? And if I roll right across, then I get that nice swirly impression. So I'll do that once more. So you roll across until it's nice thin, not too thin, of course. And then you just put it aside. Simple and easy. And if you like them extra curvy, well then, that's how you like them. However you like them. So let's just keep doing these again. Perfect. Doing these. Do this. Done. This one. Roll it up. And whoops. What's what I did here? Here. And if they ever break, just put them back together. Okay? So, here is your dough pieces, and here is the rolled up doughs, and the gnocchi that I showed you. Goodbye.